The air in the ballroom was heavy with the lingering aroma of high-end perfume, and laughter bounced off the towering ceilings like music. I lingered near the doorway, my eyes drawn to Nellie as she navigated the crowd with the ease of someone who knew how to enchant a room. She had that rare talent, making anyone she spoke to feel like the only person that mattered. Once, I truly believed I was different, that her gaze held something unique for me. But tonight, there was a shift. It began with a single look, a moment that wasn't meant for me to catch. A fleeting glance between her and an unfamiliar man. There was something in it that wasn't casual or benign. Something charged, something my instincts recognized before I could consciously piece it together. I tried to brush it off, told myself it was nothing out of the ordinary, just the way she always enjoyed basking in attention at events like this. I tried to laugh it off, to blame my suspicion on overthinking. But that look hadn't been random. It had meaning, and the fact that I wasn't supposed to see it made all the difference. From that moment, everything changed. For the next hour, I wore the mask of the perfect husband. I smiled at the right times, made small talk, sipped my drink, and laughed when expected. But all the while, my focus never strayed far from Nellie. I noticed the way she brushed her hand too lightly against his arm, leaned in just a bit too close when speaking, and let her smile linger longer than it should have. Then came the moment that confirmed everything. She glanced at her phone, murmured something to him with a softness that turned my stomach, and began walking toward the rear exit. He trailed her, staying just a few paces behind. I stood frozen in place for a few seconds, every instinct inside me urging me to move, to follow. So I did. The hallway behind the ballroom was dim, lit by a few flickering lights, and the festive noise was dampened by the thick walls. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as I made my way toward the exit, still clinging to weak rationalizations. Maybe she stepped out for some fresh air. Maybe she needed to make a call. But deep down, I knew neither was true. The door was cracked open slightly. I paused, pressing my back to the cool wall and focusing on steadying my breathing. I wasn't ready to see what waited beyond that door. I needed just a sliver of time to brace myself. Then I heard them. A low murmur of voices. Her laugh, soft and flirtatious. Not the laugh she used when genuinely amused. It was the one she used when she wanted to charm. The one that used to make me feel like I was the only man in the room. A moment later, I heard the man's voice. Are you sure he has no idea? There was a short pause before Nellie responded with a light, almost dismissive tone. He's clueless. That single word pierced through me in a way I never expected. I didn't open the door. I didn't need to. Instead, I turned and walked away. My steps felt mechanical, disconnected from my body, as if I had become a spectator in my own life. My mind wasn't focused on the present anymore. It had already begun to unravel the past. The late nights she brushed off with vague excuses. Her sudden, intense interest in looking perfect. The new habit of keeping her phone locked and face down. It all lined up now, every piece fitting into a puzzle I hadn't wanted to solve. But what surprised me most wasn't the betrayal. It was what I didn't feel. The pain I expected didn't come crashing down. There was anger, yes, and embarrassment. But heartbreak? That wasn't there. Instead, there was something colder. A feeling I never thought I'd associate with the woman I married. Indifference. I returned to the party, casually grabbed a drink, and waited by the bar. I wanted to see how long she would be gone. When Nellie finally returned, her face was a mask of grace and confidence. She laughed lightly, approached me with practiced ease, and leaned in to whisper, I was just catching up with an old friend. It was a test. She wanted to see if I'd take the bait, if I still believed the illusion. I met her gaze and raised my glass in a mock toast. Oh, I know, I replied, my voice calm. For the first time since I'd known her, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her expression. Her perfect smile hesitated, only for a heartbeat, but I caught it. The smallest fracture in her flawless act. She quickly recovered, laughing softly and curling her arm around mine, acting as though nothing had changed. As though I was still the same naive husband she had mocked just moments ago. But that man didn't exist anymore. The remainder of the evening drifted past like a fog. I remained composed, smiling when necessary, nodding through conversations I barely heard. Outwardly, I still looked like the devoted spouse. But inside, a storm was building. I wasn't going to create a spectacle. That would be too easy for her. Too expected. Instead, I decided to be strategic. I observed her every subtle movement, The glances she stole toward him, the way her hand hovered near her phone then dropped away, and how often she disappeared for just a bit too long. By the time we left the venue, I already knew what I was going to do. She believed I would remain silent, that I would swallow the truth and pretend I hadn't seen the cracks in our marriage. But what she didn't realize was that she had just triggered a chain of events that could never be reversed. The ride home. The car ride was quiet, but not the comfortable kind. The kind that pressed against you, thick and suffocating. I sensed her eyes flicking toward me from time to time, searching for signs, trying to determine if I truly meant what I had said earlier. Eventually, she spoke, her tone light, almost nonchalant, but with an undertone that felt rehearsed. "Tonight was really nice," she offered. I gave her a small smile. "Was it?" She paused briefly. "Yeah, it was good seeing everyone again." I let the words linger between us for a moment before replying. "I'm sure it was." There was another stretch of silence. I could feel the unease growing inside her. She shifted in her seat, her legs crossing and uncrossing, her fingers lightly tapping a nervous rhythm on her thigh. It was clear she wanted to ask something, to dig deeper, but she held back. She was afraid of what the answers might be. The night ahead promised to be long. When we got home, she lingered in the foyer, slowly removing her heels. I watched her carefully. She was hesitating, likely hoping I would say something, bring it up. I didn't. Instead, I loosened my tie and stretched my arms, letting out a tired sigh. "I'm completely wiped out. Think I'll head to bed early." She blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, yeah, same here." She trailed me upstairs, and for the first time in years, I noticed how mechanical our routine had become. Side by side, we brushed our teeth, changed clothes, climbed into bed, all like clockwork. But something was different tonight. The familiar script had been altered. She crawled beneath the blanket beside me, hesitating. Usually, she would turn toward me, rest a hand on my chest, maybe plant a soft kiss. But this time, she lay still. "Good night," she whispered. I didn't respond. I stared up at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing. Calm, measured, pretending to be asleep. I wondered what was racing through her mind. Was she replaying the evening? Was regret beginning to creep in? Did she realize that come morning, she might wish she had never misjudged me? I never fell asleep that night. I remained perfectly still, listening to the gentle pattern of Nellie's breath, the occasional rustle of the sheets as she shifted. I wondered if she truly slept, or if she was lying there just like me, surrounded by the heavy silence of unspoken truths. It wasn't just the act of betrayal that haunted me. It was the arrogant confidence with which she had done it. The way she had laughed, certain I was too naive, too trusting, to ever catch on to the deception. I had given 8 years of my life to her. And yet, lying beside her now, she felt like a stranger. As dawn broke, golden light streamed in through the blinds, painting the bed with long beams of sunlight. That's when I made my choice. I wouldn't confront her, not yet. There would be no shouting, no dramatic scenes. That's what she'd expect. It's what people in her position always imagine will happen. A blow-up, emotional chaos, a swift ending. But I wasn't about to hand her that satisfaction. No, I was going to let her unravel her own story. Let the truth reveal itself through her own missteps. The next morning, when she woke, it was as if nothing had changed. She stretched lazily, rubbed her eyes, and rolled over with a small yawn. "Morning," she murmured. I turned toward her, offered a simple smile, and replied, "Morning." She parted her lips slightly, almost as if she anticipated more. But I gave her nothing else. I got out of bed, took a shower, got dressed, and made breakfast just like I always did. I carried on as if everything was perfectly normal. And that shook her. I noticed it in the way she observed me over the edge of her coffee cup, the way her fingers twitched against the kitchen counter, uneasy. She was anticipating something, waiting for a confrontation. But I stayed silent. I let the weight of it settle into the space between us, thick and suffocating. Eventually, she cracked. "Is something wrong?" she asked, her tone casual but edged with worry. I looked up from my plate, my brow slightly furrowed, feigning confusion. "No." "Why do you ask?" She hesitated again. "You just seem quiet." I gave a small chuckle and shook my head. "Just thinking. Didn't sleep much." Her grip on her mug tightened ever so slightly. "Oh." For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. She was starting to fall apart, and I hadn't even begun yet. Laying the groundwork, I moved through my day as usual, headed to the office, answered emails, sat through meetings. But in the back of my mind, I was focused on one thing: evidence. I was certain Nellie had been careful. She was too calculating to leave obvious clues. But no one hides everything forever. Everyone slips up eventually. That evening, I came home and greeted her with a kiss on the cheek, just like always. I asked about her day, made small talk, and even suggested we dine out. She seemed unsure at first, but eventually agreed. And that was exactly the opening I needed. While we sat across from each other in the cozy, dim restaurant, I kept an eye on her phone. When it lit up with a message, she glanced at it quickly, barely a second, but I caught the name. A name I didn't recognize. Then she angled her screen slightly away. That single, almost imperceptible motion told me everything I needed to know. The puzzle pieces were finally coming together. It didn't take long for her to understand that the game she thought she had mastered was rigged against her from the beginning. Her phone buzzed with a short notification, just a name I didn't recognize and a glimpse of a message that disappeared the moment she tapped the screen. She locked it and tucked the device into her purse, clearly thinking she'd covered her tracks. But I had caught a glimpse, and that was all I needed. While she believed she was being discreet, she had unknowingly handed me a loose thread, a trail I could now follow. I masked my thoughts with a calm smile, slowly swirling the liquid in my glass and leaning back comfortably in my chair. "You seem a bit off," I remarked casually. Nellie lifted her gaze, tightening her grip on her wine glass. "Huh? Oh, no. Just checking the time. That's all." Her words stumbled out, clumsy and unconvincing. That was when another piece fell into place. She wasn't just hiding something, she was scared. There was a hesitation in her eyes, a fraction too long before she met my gaze. Her hand smoothed over her lap repeatedly, as if searching for a purpose. She wasn't just nervous, she was preparing herself for a confrontation she feared was coming. She knew I had seen something, though she couldn't be sure what. And that fear? It was almost poetic. But I wasn't about to react. Not yet. Instead, I decided to let the evening unfold as if nothing had changed. I picked up the dinner bill, placed a casual arm around her waist during our walk to the car, and chatted normally as we drove home. The entire time, I felt her eyes flick toward me again and again, like she was silently waiting for a spark, an accusation, a slip, anything. But I gave her nothing. Back at home, she paused at the doorway, fiddling with her purse strap before finally offering, "I think I'll take a bath." It's been kind of a long day, adding a forced yawn for good measure. There it was, her plan to retreat, to get out of sight and somewhere private. Somewhere she could check her messages without fear of me watching. Just as I'd hoped. I nodded, leaned in, and gave her a light kiss on the forehead. "You deserve a little rest," I said. For a split second, her expression cracked. Then she turned and made her way upstairs. I waited, listening as the water began to run, quietly counting the seconds before I moved. This was the beginning. She thought she'd outsmarted me. She had no clue that over the past 48 hours, I had quietly configured our home's Wi-Fi to log activity. Every device connected to it, hers included, left behind a trail of digital breadcrumbs. I opened my laptop and navigated to the access log. Within moments, her message feed was visible. And just as I suspected, her bath wasn't for relaxing. The moment she was alone, she grabbed her phone. A message popped up. No contact name. Just a question. "He didn't say anything?" Then came her reply. "Nellie." "No. But I think he knows." I stared at the screen, feeling those words land like stones in my chest. Panic had taken over her now. She was spiraling. And it was only a matter of time before she made a mistake. The longest night of her life was just beginning. I closed the laptop and sat back. I shut, breathing in slowly. I had all the proof I needed. I could have stormed upstairs, thrown open the door, and shattered the lie she was clinging to. But I didn't. Instead, I let the silence work in my favor. I sat there and listened to the water draining above me. Let her stew in her anxiety. Let her toss and turn in bed, wondering if I was pretending to sleep, wondering if I had put it all together. Let her believe, just a little longer, that she still held control over the narrative. Because by tomorrow, that illusion would crumble completely. When morning came, I was already awake, or at least, I acted like I was. The truth was, sleep had barely touched me. I had spent the entire night listening to her restless breathing, feeling the discomfort radiating from her side of the bed. She knew something had shifted, but fear kept her silent. That was the brilliance of it. She was unraveling without me having to say a single word. I got up, headed downstairs, and began making coffee like it was just another ordinary morning. The familiar scent filled the kitchen as I stood at the counter, phone in hand, the memories of last night's messages still clear in my mind. She had confessed. She believed I knew. And now, I was going to make sure she never felt confident again. When she eventually came downstairs, she looked completely worn out. Dark smudges under her eyes, hair tousled in a way that wasn't deliberate. She didn't even glance at me as she went to the fridge and poured herself some orange juice. "Did you sleep okay?" I asked, sipping from my mug. She flinched, just slightly, but I noticed. "Yeah," she answered quickly. "You?" "With no trouble at all," I replied, smiling. A total lie, of course. But she didn't need to hear the truth. She nodded slowly, absent-mindedly stirring her drink with a straw, eyes fixed on the counter. There was something in her posture, something that said she was dying to speak. Maybe she wanted to ask if I'd noticed her phone the night before. Maybe she was trying to gather courage. But nothing came out. Instead, she faked a yawn and glanced at the clock. "I think I'll hit the gym this morning." Another fabricated reason. Another chance to slip away. Another opportunity to message him. I tilted my head, pretending to consider her words. That actually sounded like a solid plan. Maybe I'd tag along. The moment I said it, her entire posture stiffened. She clearly hadn't anticipated that suggestion. Her voice was cautious as she responded, trying to stay composed. "Oh, really? Don't you have to work today?" I gave her a calm smile and took a sip of my coffee. "I can head in a bit later than usual." I could almost see the panic flickering in her eyes as she scrambled mentally, looking for any excuse to wriggle out. But there wasn't a reasonable one. After all, what kind of wife turns down a chance to work out with her husband? So she plastered on a strained smile. "Sure, sounds good. Let's do it." And just like that, she was cornered once again. Another silent test. Pushing boundaries. The car ride to the gym passed in near silence. Nellie kept checking her phone like it was scorching her pocket, but she didn't dare unlock it, not with me right beside her. Anxiety hung heavy in the air. I noticed the way her fingers tapped a nervous rhythm on her thigh and how she licked her lips repeatedly, as if her mouth had dried out. I kept things light, chatting about her job, our weekend plans, even tossing out the idea of dinner with my parents on Sunday. She replied with curt, distracted answers, her thoughts clearly elsewhere. I was enjoying every second. We worked out together, side by side. Usually, Nellie came alive at the gym. She loved the attention, always carefully put together, always exchanging pleasant smiles with strangers and acting oblivious to the glances she drew. But not today. Today, she moved with unease. Her energy was scattered, her focus lost, because I was watching. And she felt that. The longer she went without peeking at her phone, the more rattled she became. By the time we wrapped up, she looked completely drained, and not just from physical effort. As we headed to the car, she finally cracked. Buckling her seatbelt, she spoke casually, too casually. "I think I'll hang out with Kendra later. Just a girls' night. Some wine, catch up a bit." I nearly laughed. She was pulling out whatever excuse she could think of, but I didn't let it show. "That sounds great," I said while pulling out of the parking lot. "Say hi to her for me." Her eyes flicked toward me, surprised by how easy I accepted it. Yeah, will do." I could physically see the relief easing her shoulders. She really believed she had slipped by unnoticed. What she didn't know, what she couldn't even suspect, was that I'd already checked her location history. And Kendra? She wasn't even in town. That was the final piece I needed. By the time evening came, Nellie had gotten dressed, spritzed herself with perfume, and grabbed her bag. She kissed me on the cheek before walking out the door. The moment it clicked shut behind her, I moved. I flipped open my laptop and brought up the Wi-Fi log. I didn't have to wait long. Her phone pinged a new location, nowhere near Kendra's house. It connected to a hotel's network. The same hotel she had visited 3 separate times over the past couple of months. That was it. The doubt I'd carried for weeks? Gone. This was no longer speculation. It was truth, irrefutable and clear. I sat there, staring at the screen, the realization settling over me like a cold wind. She had played her little game, smiled in my face. And now? Now it was my turn to respond. As I watched her phone sit idle at that same hotel, I came to a quiet conclusion. She had no idea she was already exposed. I wasn't some unsuspecting husband chasing shadows. She'd handed me the full picture, and I was simply following the trail she left behind. The most satisfying part? She believed she was still ahead. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. There was no need for anger or some explosive confrontation. That's what she expected. That's what she was preparing herself for. But I had something else in mind. I wanted her to fall into her own trap. I was setting the final act. I glanced at the time. She had been at the hotel for about an hour. Whether she was just arriving or already preparing to leave didn't matter. What did matter was that she believed she was safe, and that illusion was about to shatter. I grabbed my phone and scrolled down until I found a familiar name, Kendra. Yes, the very same Kendra Nellie claimed to be with tonight. The one completely unaware of her role as an unwitting cover. I paused briefly before pressing call. It rang twice before a bright, friendly voice answered. Hey, it's been ages, Kendra greeted me, completely unaware. I kept my voice neutral. Hey, just checking in. Nellie mentioned you two were having a girls' night tonight? There was a pause on the other end. Confusion laced her voice. Sorry. What? Bingo. I let out a low chuckle. Yeah, she said you were catching up over some wine? Kendra gave a short laugh. No, I'm staying with my folks a few states over. Haven't seen Nellie in weeks. My hand tightened around the phone, but I kept my tone even. Strange. She must have mixed things up. Kendra clicked her tongue. Wait, did she say that just now? Yeah, she did. There was another pause, longer this time. Then a soft sigh from her end. Look, I don't know what's happening, but if she's lying about being with me, that's definitely not okay. I gave a slight nod, even though she couldn't see it. No, it's not. She paused once more before finally asking, Are you okay? I gave a small smile, knowing she couldn't see it. I will be, I replied softly, then ended the call. The weight of my deception settled heavily on me. Leaning back in my chair, I let out a slow breath. That was it. The final confirmation. It was one thing to have doubts about her faithfulness, another to catch her in a lie. But using her best friend as a shield? That sealed it. This wasn't some impulsive mistake. This had been going on for a long time. She had lied to my face without hesitation, and I had finally reached my limit. I wasn't going to be the naive one anymore. I glanced at the clock. Nearly 2 hours had passed. She was still at the hotel. A quiet, grim smile formed on my lips. Let her have her time. Because once she walked through that front door, everything would change. Her reality was about to hit her hard. By the time I heard the crunch of tires on the driveway, I was already planted on the couch. The TV flickered with a show I wasn't paying attention to. I didn't even flinch when the door opened. Her heels clicked rhythmically against the floor, the scent of her perfume filling the room before she said anything. Hey, babe, she called out casually, as though she had just come back from a completely innocent evening. I'm so tired. Kendra and I talked for hours. I finally turned to face her. Her makeup looked untouched, her lipstick only slightly smudged, and there was the unmistakable scent of hotel soap lingering on her. I gave a measured smile. Yeah? What did you two talk about? She giggled lightly as she kicked off her shoes. Oh, just stuff about work, relationships, life, girl things. I nodded, slowly and deliberately. Interesting. I actually spoke to Kendra earlier. A thick silence immediately blanketed the room. Her body tensed. Slowly, she turned toward me, her face unreadable, but her eyes full of panic. She attempted to brush it off with an awkward chuckle. Oh, really? What did she say? I relaxed against the couch, draping an arm over the armrest. She said she hasn't seen you in over a month. Right there, I saw it, the moment her entire facade cracked. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Her expression went pale, and I could almost see her mind scrambling for a lifeline, searching for some explanation. But she had nothing. She opened her mouth again, then shut it, unable to form a single believable word. I let the silence hang between us like a storm cloud, watching the control she once had slip away completely. Nellie stood there, frozen, as though time had stopped around her. Her mouth opened and closed like she was struggling to breathe. Every lie she had carefully built came crashing down in a single moment. I could see her fingers twitch, tempted to reach for her phone, hoping for a message from Kendra that could somehow fix everything. But deep down, she already knew there was no way to recover from this. Eventually, she forced out a nervous laugh, strained and empty. Okay, yes, I did go out, but I lifted a hand, silencing her. You don't need to explain anything. She blinked. What? Standing up, I smoothed down my sleeves, feeling a lightness in my chest I hadn't felt in years. I don't need any more lies. I'm not interested in apologies. And I'm definitely not going to waste another minute pretending this marriage is something it's not. Her face twisted with panic. Wait, I walked past her, heading for the stairs. Your bags are packed, I said without emotion. They're in the guest room. You can pick them up before you leave. She froze. What? I turned to face her from the staircase, leaning against the railing. "Oh, did you expect me to beg? To cry and ask why you betrayed me?" I let out a dry chuckle. "I've known for days, Nellie. You weren't as clever as you thought." Her fists clenched at her sides, her face ashen. "This isn't fair." I raised an eyebrow. "Unfair? You think unfair is spending 8 years with someone who never valued me?" She swallowed, her voice breaking. "We can work through this. Talk it out." "No," I replied firmly. "You can talk. I'm done listening." For the first time, real fear flashed in her eyes. Maybe she had truly believed she'd never be caught. Maybe she thought she could always stay a step ahead. But now, the script had flipped. She had lost all her leverage, and I had finally taken mine back. I didn't wait around for more excuses. I walked upstairs into the bedroom that no longer felt like home, grabbed my car keys, and left without looking back. I didn't just drive aimlessly. I knew exactly where I wanted to be. I pulled into the lot of a small bar on the outskirts of town. It was a place I hadn't been to in years, back before life became complicated, before marriage and all the responsibilities that followed. It was a place that still felt like mine. I took a seat at the bar, ordered a drink, and exhaled deeply. And in that moment, for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a sense of peace. No more doubts. No more pretending. No more lies. I was free, and I had no intention of ever looking back.